Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman. Joining me tonight is co-host Britt Pergl as well. We have a bunch to talk to you about on a Thursday night, August 3rd, for all of you paying attention out there. LA Galaxy coming off of a 0-0 draw with the Seattle Sounders. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to go into, obviously, their game on Sunday against the Portland Timbers. Who's going to be available for that game? We got some answers for you, or at least some pretty good guesses. And then, of course, we have a bunch of LA Galaxy news to talk to you about. They've signed LA Galaxy 2 has signed a new player that you're going to want to know about. We have the VAR technology coming into the league and a whole bunch of other things, including Jelle Van Damme. Is he already gone? So that's all the fun stuff we have planned for you tonight. And, of course, if we can get to some of your calls and some of your questions in the chat room, we're going to do that as well. But we're glad that you could join us. Let's check in with my fearless co-host. Britt has just been sort of promoted to the co-host rank, so you're going to be hearing her on a regular basis. So, Britt, why don't you say hi and give everybody just a little brief intro into you.
Hey, Josh. Thanks again for including me into the mix here. So I have been into soccer since I was a little kid, started playing around 5. I was actually raised as a left back, so that's why amazing defensive plays are always my favorite. Kind of followed the Galaxy. I went to my first game in 2000. I was a little kid, and I've kind of kept an eye on them ever since. Other than that, I have a background in sports medicine, so I love talking injuries and player safety and all that fun stuff. And you guys at home can follow me on Twitter at _BrittJo, so that's BRITTJO, where I can talk about soccer, make ridiculous puns, and talk about my dog Augie.
Yeah, I was going to say Augie's probably going to make an appearance at least once or twice on this podcast. I could just tell. I know he's just waiting to voice his approval of your work and of the podcast, and so I'm sure we'll hear him in no time. But let's get to the Seattle Sounders here. The LA Galaxy played the Seattle Sounders, the first game under Siggy, or at least the first game back under Siggy. I always want to say like the Siggy era has begun, but it's really just continued after a prolonged absence. The LA Galaxy 0-0 draw a better looking team. And if you followed our show on Monday nights with Kevin, you know that we wrote down most of this stuff. But I wanted to get Britt's sort of take on this game and see if we can glean anything more from just what we learned from this particular game. So Britt, what was your first thoughts here on the LA Galaxy playing at home? Didn't lose. I guess that maybe that's the first thing that sort of pops out, but the 0-0 draw for the Galaxy.
I think the biggest thing for me is it might be one of the first games this season where I've actually seen this team having fun, kind of enjoying their play together. A lot of good connecting passes, a lot of cheeky through balls, step overs, things like that we really haven't seen under Kurt Analfo when he was the coach. So I think that something changed in the locker room, and I mean we all know what that is and the coaching change, but I think that really helped with the team chemistry.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, and certainly I would say that after the game, the guys seemed a little bit, everybody except for Ashley Cole, by the way. I think everybody was sort of relieved and felt a little bit better, and, it was sort of like, hey, this feels right. It feels like a change. I mean, Kevin was telling us that some of the guys didn't even know that Kurt had been fired whenever they arrived to training last Thursday. So, I mean, whirlwind sort of thing. You train on Thursday, you train on Friday, you have a game on Saturday in terms of how it all goes down. But, I mean, the LA Galaxy were solid defensively. Jermaine Jones's positioning is probably the biggest sort of thing or biggest takeaway that I have from this particular game. Just the fact that Siggy was able to put Jermaine in a position, Britt, where he was a defensive player, where he wasn't, often, foraging into the attacking zone willy-nilly and not leaving his defenders back. And you looked at, sort of the defensive performance, and Seattle had been on a win or on a roll up until this point. So to get a draw against them is a significant step forward for a team that has been abysmal at home. Right,
definitely. I think that the team just kind of looked better, even defensively, where they were probably doing their best. If you had to pick a good position for them for the season, it would definitely be in defense, but even that looked a little bit better. So I think the whole thing's kind of lifted a level.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of how it goes. I mean, I think it was Kevin and I were talking, we were saying it was so positive that we were talking about the game in such a positive way that clearly there was something wrong with the Galaxy, that a 0-0 draw in which, if you watch the highlights, by the way, the MLS highlights that they put out, it shows you the very first kickoff, which they always do. They always show you the kickoff. So there's the kickoff, and then the next highlight doesn't come until the 45th minute. And so, I mean, the game itself was probably pretty boring throughout the entirety of the game, but it was a solid performance. The biggest takeaway for me that I had outside of Jermaine Jones' positioning was the fact that they were creating chances. The other part of that is that they couldn't finish a chance to save their life. They never looked that dangerous. While Seattle certainly outshot them in overall shots, but that didn't seem to matter because Seattle just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn either. So both of these teams struggled. I mean, when you look at it, the LA Galaxy actually ceded possession to Seattle. Overall, Seattle won the possession battle just barely. It was like by 2.2%. It was just barely over. In terms of overall possession, and for a home team that needs to change. But again, it was a step in the right direction. So I think that's the biggest thing for me that I take, a step in the right direction. And Pele Van Aanholt actually got his LA Galaxy debut, which everybody was complaining, saying, when's Pele going to play? You signed him and he's never going to play. And I kept saying, the guy's been with the team 10 days. Let's chill a little bit on it. He came out and solid. I mean, do you miss left back? Do you have any positions on the Galaxy's new right back?
I would agree with all the positive vibes. It was nice having him play that whole 71 minutes. I know people weren't sure about his fitness levels coming in, but I think that he slotted in very well, and I think that he makes a good addition to the team.
Yeah, and we'll see. I have no opinion. I sort of have almost no opinion on him yet because I haven't seen enough of him, but he was perfectly adequate in what he was asked to do, and he wasn't asked to do.
That's more than you can say for some of the other people that slipped in there. So
sometimes like Bradley Diallo, who only played something like 29 minutes and somehow still managed to get another yellow card and suspended for the next game. And of course, we can't go any further without talking about Jelle Van Damme and his 2 yellow cards. The man leads the league in yellow cards. He leads the league in red cards. Yellow cards 8, red cards 3. All of his red cards have come as the result of 2 yellow cards, which means that in 3 games, he's gotten 6 yellow cards and 3 red cards. That's kind of impressive from a sort of, outside standpoint.
It was kind of the first time I've had to research that whole, if he gets a second yellow in the game and he's already hit that yellow card accumulation, does he have 1 or 2 games suspended? Like, I've never thought that I would ever have to research that, but in fact it is 2 games.
Yeah, it's 1 game for the yellow card suspensions, or for the yellow card accumulation, and then it's 1 game for the 2 yellow cards equals a red. So yeah, I was with you on that, by the way. I was like, oh great, this seems like it's very good. What I don't know yet is if the 8 that he has, the 8 yellow cards, see, it doesn't even seem like they count the second yellow card because the second yellow card turns into a red, because technically I think he should have that. It was his 8th yellow card that got him suspended for yellow card accumulation, and then he should have another one, which should actually be 9. Don't ask. It's because he got a second yellow, which is still a yellow, but it gets turned into a red, so it doesn't count against the yellow card accumulation. But that doesn't make any sense because all of his other yellow cards are the case. I need to go back and actually see how many yellow cards he has. He may actually have more yellow cards than that, Britt, because if they're not counting the second yellow card because it turns into a red, does that mean
I don't think it turns into a red. I think it's you got that second one, so that second one counts, and then they add the red to it.
See, that's what I thought too, but if you look at how it gets counted, he was, I think, so you after your first 5, so whenever you get 5 yellow cards, you get suspended, right? Then you get 3 more. So you get 3 more. On your third one, after that, your 8th, is your suspension. So right now they show him with 8, but technically he was already on yellow card watch 7 going into the game. So did it not count? So are they counting the second? Anyway, this is like going down into
too much.
It's crazy.
And do they have the math beyond this point? Like, have they ever planned for someone to get more than 8 yellows?
Oh, I guaranteed. Somebody had to have, even Rafa Marquez. Rafa, you just used to pick up red cards. It's very interesting to see this whole yellow card thing devolve. And the fact that Bradley Diallo, a guy who hasn't played that many minutes, also got yellow cards suspended in the same game for 5 yellow cards.
It's almost impressive.
Again, I tip my hat to all these people, and we'll see whether or not the LA Galaxy can pick up some more against Portland, who we all know have a tendency to hit the ground a little early. So we'll see how that goes as well. But otherwise, it's Siggy Schmidt. He comes in, he stabilizes. Outside of a boneheaded performance from Jelle Van Damme, and just the way, and we're going to get into talking about Jelle Van Damme and whether or not we think he's gone, Britt, but just there was something about that tackle at the end of that game that was very much, I don't care anymore. And it was very much, I might want to injure this person. And it was very much like, just, screw this team, I'm done.
I mean, there's been conspiracy theories floating around that when he wants to go visit his kids in Belgium, that he decides that he gets a red card and looks at the schedule ahead of time. And I don't think I buy into that much, but I think there's definitely an element of him taking out his frustrations on whatever's going on outside the field to this game and maybe playing a little bit more reckless than he would otherwise.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, he played in an MLS All-Star game, and we'll talk about that. Just, we'll touch on it here, but I thought maybe it was some of his best work, 45 minutes of work for the MLS All-Stars against Real Madrid, and it was sort of like, yeah, dude, that's where why were we not getting this from you throughout the year? He's been the most inconsistent, frustrating player on the team this year by far, and he plays next to probably the most consistent, non-frustrating player, Ashley Cole. And to see those two, I don't know why Ashley Cole doesn't have him in a headlock and, just beating the crap out of him.
First of all, but I wonder if it's some of that. I know there's been previous European-based players that come to play in MLS, and they'll talk about their players in the media and how the MLS players just aren't quite up to snuff with the way they should be or the level they're used to playing at. I wonder if he's being less vocal in the media about that, but if there's some of that as well. So if he's playing in the All-Star game with the best MLS players across the league, which were a bunch of European-based players, I wonder if his mindset changed a little bit and it's like, hey, now I'm playing with the caliber that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting theory. We're going to talk about Jelle Van Damme in just a little bit, but if you want to get in, you want to talk to us what you saw about the Seattle game, you can certainly do that. Call 949-734-4217. Once again, 949-734-4217. Our chat room is going like crazy, so remember, if you're ever in the in a proper position to watch our live show live on YouTube on Thursday nights, usually at 7 p.m., in fact, almost always at 7 p.m., it's one of those tricks, you're more than welcome to get in on the chat room and talk as well. So Stefan Ishizaki is being talked about right now. Michael Stevens is being talked about right now. And Christian Wilhelmsen, the reason the LA Galaxy won the 2014 MLS Cup, is also being talked about on there as well. Don't challenge me on that, by the way, Britt. That was a well-known fact that Christian Wilhelmsen is the reason the LA Galaxy won the Cup that year.
The sole reason.
The sole reason. Well, he was so dangerous. He was so dangerous going towards goal and so fast that you had to cover him. You had to cover him. The fact that he couldn't score to save his life doesn't mean anything. Yeah. So anyway, that's where we're at. So we'll see how all of that goes and everything else that's sort of in between on that. So let's see. Let's move on now to some of our other stuff. We go on just some interesting sort of things that I picked up from this game, at least from the fact that Seattle has won, the fact that what Siggy said after the game is just some interesting things. So let me give you some quotes from his post game and just sort of walk you through a little bit of what he said. I'm sure lots of you have heard it, but on his first game as head coach, Siggy says the team, when you look at the goals allowed over the last 4 or 5 games for the team, the only way we were going to stand a chance of being able to win the game was to make sure we stopped that. I thought we did a good job defending. The game got open in the second half, but on the same token, we had a couple of good chances. Our offense will get better, but I was happy with the effort and the fight that everyone put in for each other. I think that's the biggest thing for me, Britt, is it's about the offense getting better. It's about being happy with the effort that everybody was willing to fight for everyone. I mean, Siggy's trying to get this team mentality back, and it seems that maybe perhaps there wasn't a team mentality going into this game.
I would argue that that's a good point. I don't know if you saw before the game where Siggy got the entire bench involved in like a little team huddle and a little go team moment before the first touch. But I think that there's something about the team mentality that just wasn't there ahead of time. And his focus is bringing that back for sure.
He goes on about the team, and Siggy says, right now we are still in the process of learning each other, so they're getting to know me, and I'm getting to know them. So with every game, you learn a little bit more, so they understand a little bit of what I want in terms of defense and in terms of commitment. It's not so much defense as it is commitment to help each other out in that part of the field. There you go again with the defense and everything else. Siggy said again that he would talk to Jelle Van Damme after the game about his red card. He says, obviously it's disappointing disappointing that Van Damme was in that situation, but we have to move forward, and that means somebody else has to come in there and play, and they have to do a good job. I'll talk to him, and we'll see. So there's a little bit from Siggy on there. I don't know that anybody else said anything like super exciting or fantastic that we saw.
I think my favorite moment in that press conference, in Siggy's press conference, was when it was almost like I almost want to say it was almost like a grandfather telling stories to his grandkids, because someone asked him about how special it was coming back against his former team, and you could almost see this like sparkle in his eyes when he talked about this team that he built, and I almost got a sense of almost tearing up when he said, "Oh, how much I love this game." And so I think he's happy to be back, and I think that there's going to slowly be that sense of, I almost want to call it Galaxy pride that there used to be.
Right.
Things are nice again, you know?
Yeah, no, there's something to this, and here's the interesting part about that I think, Britt, is that you look at sort of where the LA Galaxy were trending and how they were going down this drain. They were headed, basically right now they're tied with 2006. 23 points through 21 games. The only LA Galaxy team that has ever been worse was 2007. Through 21 games, they had 17 points, okay? There was a dip there, if you remember the 2006, 2007, into the 2008 year, and right before Bruce Arena came in, that, the Galaxy were down and out, that this team was never coming back, and they needed sort of this sense of pride, this thing to be rebuilt around them, because they didn't have it anymore. They had lost it. And you sort of saw what happened with Bruce Arena in 2016, that team that should have, really performed better than anybody else in the league, a team that was so stacked with talent. They should have done something, but there was something missing. Maybe it was the pride. Maybe it was just the fact that Bruce was ready to move on, that some of these guys just weren't 100% locked in. You had Robbie Keane towards the end of his career, although it looks like
I think they were getting complacent at that point.
There's something. It certainly was something. All right, we got a phone call here, so let's see if we can bring this one in. Let's see, 805. Sorry, I was going to say 1-800. No, 805. Who's this?
Hey, Josh, this is Scott.
No, Scott, say it right. Say your best friend,
Josh,
Scott.
this is your best friend.
Thank you. That makes me feel better. What do you got, Scott?
So, just real quick, if I'm understanding how soccer works, you have to score goals to win games. Am I getting that correctly?
That is
right?
That is correct. Yes.
So I know we have a new very, very fit manager that's coming in to lead us. But when he sees this roster, what is his plan for putting the ball in the back of the net? Because what I saw against Seattle indicates that we cannot do that.
Yeah, it seems to be a trend. I'll be honest, I was going back and looking at it, Scott, to sort of see where the Galaxy sat in terms of scoring goals, and they're not horrible. I'm not going to say they're great either, right? But they're not horrible. So when you look at that, it's almost like the defense part where Siggy's saying we need to play better defense really does sort of make some sense. But I will tell you this, their average at home right now of scoring goals at home, and this is the problem that really hurts me and like anybody who's watching, Scott, is their average goals per game scoring at home is 0.9 goals.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of that is Alessandrini creating goals for himself and then just getting fluky goals from our defenders. And then when Gio is still cold right now, it seems like the only rational way we're going to do this is Gio and Alessandrini both need to get hot. But that's not really sustainable. That's not how it's not how the 2014 team won the MLS Cup. There's so much fluidity amongst the attack, amongst those like top six guys, and just we don't have the players, we don't have the pieces to do that. We just don't pass well up top, and I don't see how that's going to change unless we have some. I just don't know if new Dos Santos is going to be able to like make Josh Cesar score goals all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Britt.
I would argue that I would give Siggy more time before I say, hey, we don't have the right pieces. I'm really interested to see what he would do with the offense. He literally had Thursday, Friday, and then game day. So maybe that mentality might change a little bit. I'm not saying that Jonah Dos Santos is the one that's going to get Jossie scoring. I don't know what that is at this point. But I would say I'm willing to give Siggy a couple more weeks to kind of see what's there before I say, hey, we definitely need more pieces.
Yeah, it's interesting, the whole Jonathan Dos Santos. And by the way, if you called in, you didn't get through, call in again. I can only take one call at a time here. We're a real complicated, advanced phone screening call here. If I see you, I hit play. If not, I have to hang up on you. I can't have two calls at once. But no, I mean, the thing with Jonathan Dos Santos is that he may make Giassi Zardes a better forward. Giassi Zardes, everybody goes back to 2014 and looks at what Giassi Zardes did in that particular year, and that's the year where whenever you look at everything, that you see that he was a striker, and because he was a striker, he was able to score those goals, and if he was able to score those goals, it was because he was put in the proper position. He's not a guy who creates his own shot, Britt, and that's what everybody has to keep remembering, and there aren't a ton of those guys. Here, we got another phone call as well, though. 951, who's this?
Hi. I was about to call you Scott. Hey, Josh, it's Juan from Rialto.
Hey, Juan, how's it going, buddy? Thanks for calling in. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, with 6 days left in the transfer window, I know Scott was also mad about it, but are we going to sign another kind of TAM-level striker in 6 days, or is this window shut for us?
I would say here's what I'm hearing right now, that realistically there's a possibility of somebody leaving the team way before anybody comes into the team, and if anybody does come into the team, the LA Galaxy could possibly be shopping for a replacement for that person who's leaving the team. So Jelle Van Damme is the guy who could possibly be leaving, and certainly I have we've all heard his quotes, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more, but it doesn't seem like there's a TAM level striker coming in, is what I'm telling you. It doesn't seem like there's any striker coming in right now. There's some other things that could happen, and we're going to talk about a little more on the show, so I don't want to completely blow up the show to talk about it all, but I think that in this offseason, and yes, that's where you're going to have to look right now, I think in the offseason, the LA Galaxy will get a chance to add that missing piece. I think that they went after a missing piece this time, Juan. I think they went after a Zlatan. I think they went after, a Gignac, whether or not they did it wholeheartedly and knowing how much money they could spend, all those things. And in the end, they ended up taking what they thought was the best player and not necessarily maybe their position of need. I think even the LA Galaxy, even Chris Klein and Pete Vianis realized that a striker needs to be brought in to score some goals. So I don't think it's hopeless yet, because I think Jonathan Dos Santos will help on the offense. Because I think he will put Giassi Zardes in a position to score. I think he will put other people in positions to score, whether it's Jack McBean or Jack McInerney. I know that's a scary proposition for a lot of people, and I understand why. But I think you're going to start getting some more goals production out of those people, if only because Jonathan Dos Santos is another person they're going to have to watch, which might leave Gio open a little bit more, which might leave Roman Alessandrini open a little bit more. So I know that's probably disappointing. Britt, did you want to add anything to Juan?
No, my first response to that question is if they'd be willing to pay for, I don't know, $5. I know that the cap's pretty tight at this point. So hello, can you hear me?
Oh, I think I lost you.
All right, Juan, we'll let you go, buddy. Okay.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks. All right. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that, Britt. I'll figure that out later. It's one of those things. Sometimes things don't transfer through. So.
All right. You can hear me though.
Yeah, I got you. No problems. Yeah. So what were you saying about the strikers and everything else in that?
Yeah, I would say that the cap is a little tight by my math. If they wanted to play for like $5, we might be able to make it work. But beyond that, someone would have to leave to free up space.
And that could very well happen. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was the case. All right, let's keep going here as we move on. Sort of wrapping up Seattle. Not too much that we really need to talk about that game. 0-0 draw, step in the right direction. That's where we're going. All right. Team news. We were just talking about it. Jelle Van Damme is talking like he's already leaving. This is a guy who right now seems to be in a bad situation, Britt. He seems to be a guy who's not feeling being in Los Angeles anymore. He had this quote, and whenever he was talking about the MLS All-Star game, he was talking to Charles Baum of MLSsoccer.com, and he says, if I think about myself, I'm good in LA. If I think about my kids, I just want to go back. I know it got all in the press in Belgium, and the clubs in Belgium know my situation. My teams know the situation. LA always has respected my situation, and they helped me out wherever they could. But I feel the second year is getting harder and harder. So that's Jelle Van Damme talking about it, and he went on to say, Britt, that basically he should have more to say in the next few days. Whenever you hear Jelle Van Damme, whenever we've talked to him, and by the way, he did not talk to the media again after his red card ejection against Seattle. So Jelle has been ducking the media as of late, which is fine. You're perfectly able to do that, but know that we wanted to talk to him for sure. Whenever you hear Jelle saying this, whenever you sort of see the body language that he's put on the field, what does this say to you?
I think I would agree that he's most likely on his way out, especially when he said that he should have something or he should be able to say more in a few days. He wouldn't kind of put that out there if there wasn't something to say.
Yeah.
Something different than, like, it's not gonna, hey, by the way, in a few days, I'm gonna tell you that I'm staying.
Yeah. Hey, I have a huge announcement to tell you. I'm staying till the end of the year. I mean, here's the bottom line. And Ashley Cole is rumored to be going as well to Birmingham City. And he talked after the game and said, yeah, you'd be stupid not to be listening to those. You know, his contract's almost up here. He knows what age he's at. And so it could be very well that he could be moving on and playing in the championship for Birmingham City. I mean, all those things. So you have two of these international players. Here's the thing, though, Britt. Neither one of these guys is back next year.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, and I thought Jelle Van Damme would be a guy who would retire, and quite honestly, at the beginning of the season, the guy, he literally said, I want to retire in LA. And I believe that he was telling the truth at the beginning of the season. I think this year has really taken a toll on him. The losing doesn't help. You know, he hasn't been consistent. He hasn't been playing well. The team hasn't been playing well. None of those things help Britt, but at the same time, this is a guy who seems like, you know, being away from his family and his kids, and I believe he's separated and possibly divorced from his wife. You know, it's got to be difficult. They're still back in Belgium. I mean, he's not even on the East Coast. It's not even like, hey, I'm an 8 or 9 hour flight away. I'm like, you know, 11 and a half, 12, 13 hour flight away from Los Angeles. So it's a long time and a long distance to be away from his family. And, you know, if you're a parent or, you know, anybody, if you have people close to you, it's difficult to be away from people. I think Jonathan Dos Santos is coming to Los Angeles in large part because it seems like his fiance is from here. So, you know, these things matter. The quality of life that these players have matter in the overall scheme of things. And Los Angeles is great, Britt, because it is a place that does really well in terms of attracting people to live because it's a wonderful place to live. But at the same time, when you're this far away from your family, it's going to be taking your toll. And I have to believe that's what's really behind most of these problems this year.
I would definitely agree. I mean, work-life balance is a part of any job, whether you're a professional athlete or whether you're sitting behind a desk in an office. You know, it always has to be part of it. And when it comes to professional sports, no one's going to enjoy watching someone hate their job. I'm not saying that he hates his job here, but there's definitely it looks like it's less fun for him, whether it be things outside of soccer or whatever. It's affecting his play. He's angry all the time on the field. I kind of have this thing that I always watch for is how many times he yells per game. And I know you and I were talking about the All-Star game, and I'm like, nah, he yelled a few times there. He wasn't completely happy. So I don't know if that's just his style or if it's his frustration from off the field things coming into the field. But that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, no, again, and it's very interesting. Here's the thing that, you know, you sort of look at it from the team perspective. We've just looked at it from Jelle Van Damme's perspective. I get it. It makes sense to me. You know, I think a lot of you know that I have a son who lives in Denver, and it drives me crazy that, you know, he's not here every day. So, you know, it certainly is something that can wear on you and certainly wears you down over time. The thing that sort of comes from the Galaxy's perspective, though, is that, and this goes for both Cole and Van Damme, is that these guys are still under contracts. These guys' contracts are not going anywhere. If the LA Galaxy want to, Britt, they can make sure that these guys play out their contract. They certainly could. And I think if you're the LA Galaxy, you might want to do that too, because the only chance you have right now, if you're the Galaxy front office, the only chance you have of making the playoffs is to get Jelle Van Damme and Ashley Cole and everybody on the back line that you already have, you know, firing in the right direction. You might be able to lose one. You may be able to use Van Damme and slip Dave Romney in there, who I think has had a very good year so far. So, you know, in terms of what you expected from him, I think he's had a good year. Now, can you lean on him, and is he the starter? Well, he's probably the starter next year. So, you know, but here's the other problem is he's also the left back replacement, right? So you can't lose both of these guys. Dave Romney can only play one position. You have to go to somebody like Bradley Diallo or Hugo Ariano in order to fill in those other defensive parts. And I feel like there's more of a drop off. With Dave Romney, there's a drop off, but I think you still survive. So you could probably get rid of one if you wanted to, if you're the LA Galaxy. If you have to move Jelle, then you make that move. But I'm also of the opinion that if they really want to push for the playoffs, if they think this is a possibility, which it is, the Galaxy I think are 7 points out of a playoff position right now. That's not out of anything. That's not out of, you know, remotely out of the playoff position. So the Galaxy have a chance to make the playoffs. And so you could hold both those guys, and both of those guys, again, are going to leave at the end of the year. But the one thing I don't think the Galaxy can afford to do this time, Britt, is just let Jelle Van Damme go.
I mean, they've had to cover for him being out. How many games has he been suspended this year already?
So it's at least 3, right, for the red cards. And then was there any additional games? I don't think there's been additional games. Oh no, he had a yellow card accumulation before. So that's a 4th game in there.
Right. So that's a lot of games to have to cover for him already. And so it's kind of a liability. So I think the front office has to kind of outweigh those options of, if he's unhappy, maybe there's more yellows, maybe there's more suspensions, maybe there's more reckless tackles where the disco would add additional games. So it's definitely something that the front office kind of has to weigh out their options. If Jelle really wants to go, I definitely wouldn't want to be the one to hold that conversation with him. It's like, no, you're not gonna be allowed to go. I would not want to be in the room for that conversation.
I mean, I'd want to be in the room just with like a video camera so I could see whoever was telling him that puts into a headlock. The deal is, though, I mean, if you're looking for a man manager and with Siggy and what Siggy is, realistically what he represents is a guy who can manage big names. And Jelle Van Damme isn't the biggest of names, so I mean, he should be able to quote unquote manage Jelle. And I just think if the Galaxy are going to move Jelle Van Damme this time, that unlike the Nigel de Jong move, unlike the Stefan Ishizaki move, and unlike some of the other moves that were just free transfers where we'll mutually terminate the contract and you can leave, I really think that if they're going to move him, that you should try to move him for a fee. Even if that fee is, $1 million, which is nothing in the world transfer market. Even if that fee is $750,000, even if it's $500,000, whatever it is, you should try to get something this time because Jelle's putting you in a situation that you certainly didn't expect with whenever you signed him, gave him a raise. I mean, he knew what he was getting into whenever he signed on the dotted line.
Right.
It would be nice to recoup some of that money. And in this particular case, I think that's in the LA Galaxy's best interest if they are going to move him. I'll give you my insider information that I have. I was told last week that the LA Galaxy would not be moving Jelle Van Damme and that they would not be moving Ashley Cole before the end of the season. I've been told that still stands. I still believe that there is a very, very good likelihood that Jelle Van Damme moves. I don't think Ashley Cole's going anywhere until the end of the season, but JVD, Van Damme himself, he's the guy who would probably move, and the way he's talking, it seems like it's close to that now. So, I mean, that's it. I mean, that's where the Galaxy stand on him right now. And if they lose him, regardless of what you think, and Britt, I'll disagree with you a little bit, regardless of whether you're worried about suspensions or anything else or all those other things, he's still when he's playing well, he's the best defender on the team. And he was last year. And if you could grab some of that and harness some of that down the stretch, that's a much higher positive than letting him go and having Dave Romney go in there and Dave Romney's overall ceiling.
I mean, but can you guarantee the best soccer out of someone who doesn't want to be in LA?
No, absolutely not. You can't. But the rolling the dice, I mean, is a 75% Jelle Van Damme better than a
than Jelle Van Gone?
The Jelle card Von Gone. Wow.
Jelle card accumulation.
Von Gone.
He doesn't need a last name for that one. It's fine.
You don't think? Okay. Anyway, that needs to be a T-shirt now. I'm thinking about it already. All right. But no, I mean, that I think that a Jelle Van Damme. You got me all screwed up now. Yeah, I think a Jelle Van Damme at 75% is better than a Dave Romney at 100%. I think a Jelle Van Damme at 50% could be better than a Dave Romney at 100%. But
50 is a stretch.
Maybe it is. Anyway, so that's sort of Jelle Van Damme and where we sit. The next bit of news that we want to talk about and get to is something that's very, very interesting. If you're watching games on this Saturday, the LA Galaxy don't play until Sunday, but the games on Saturday fall into this category as well, starting on Friday, August 4th, and that's the official go date for Major League Soccer. Video assistant referee will be in play on all Major League Soccer games. That's an actual thing that's happening. So those first games on Saturday will be an amazing thing to watch. In fact, I may glue myself to the television all day and watch every single game because, good Lord, there will be so much focus on this VAR technology and how it's implemented and how it screws up games or how it doesn't screw up games or how they use it and how it doesn't get used. And so to me, this is endlessly entertaining to see MLS go forward on this. And, there was a lot, without giving MLS too much shtick here, Britt, it looks like everybody made fun of Major League Soccer whenever they had the spray foam, right? They were like, "Oh, look at that spray foam in the lines. That's ridiculous. Who does
Right.
that? You know, what a clown league." And then it goes to the Premier League the next year, right? So I'm wondering if that's going to be the case, or if everybody looks at this and says this is a horrible experiment and it all goes sideways. Because I mean, these things, this is going to happen. VAR is going to be, a thing. They're going to be able to look at different sort of plays, and there's only 4 plays that you can review. 1 is a goal, 2 is a penalty kick, 3 is a direct red card, and 4 is mistaken identities. And sort of Howard Webb was trying to explain it, and if you watch any of the VAR videos on MLS, I implore you to go there. Woo, riot of a time. You know, you can play a drinking game with every time they say this particular thing. We asked the question not, was the referee right, but was the referee clearly wrong? And so what they're trying to fix is the clear and obvious errors, all right? Clear and obvious errors. And that's where you're going to see all this stuff. So, I mean, Britt, what's your initial, just sort of thing on VAR? Are you for or are you against?
I'm for. I think that kind of just saying MLS refs, a lot of MLS fans know what you're talking about. And I think a systematic review of that is something that would encourage the referees to make the right call the first time. Not that they're not doing that anyway, but know that they're going to be scrutinized more, which might make them a little bit more attentive.
Here's how VAR works. I'll give you my opinion here at the end here. Here's how VAR works. There's no coaches' challenges. Every review is constantly being checked during the game by a video assistant referee who sits up in a booth at the stadium. So he's there. He gets to view all of the feeds that are going on, and sometimes there's between 8 to 12 video feeds coming from the broadcaster of that game. So, I mean, this never would have worked at MLS, 1.0, where some of the teams didn't have local television deals and only had one camera, high up above.
Right.
Now you're getting it where you're getting, 8 to 12 feeds, which is a ton of information whenever you're going, and it's ongoing and constant. If you've seen videos of it, they have a giant touchscreen television sort of in front of them, and they can double click on a feed and bring it up to full screen so that way they can see it and then go back. And then I swear to God, they have a giant red button, like the easy buttons from Staples, basically is the way. I have one of those somewhere in my office too. But they have a giant red button, and whenever there's a video review that they're taking a look at, they hit the button and that notifies the referee. Right. And then basically the video assistant referee can now start the review process and start looking through it and saying, hey, here's where I see the problem. And if the video assistant referee tells the center referee, hey, listen, that guy was 6 yards offside. It's not even close. It was a blown call. You should take a look at it, or you should change the call. Right. And so the referee can just blow the whistle and change the call and then it's over with. And the video assisted review is over. Or what he can do is say, hey, if it's more of a something that you should take a look at, the video assistant referee can radio down and say, hey, listen, I saw something here. You're going to want to take a look at this penalty kick that you just awarded. This guy may have dove. Why don't you take a look at it on the monitors? I think the guy dove. What do you think? And so it still gives the center referee all of the power in terms of whether he wants to look at a play on the sideline monitors or whether he wants to just take the VAR's, sort of suggestion on how things work. And so they did a whole bunch of tests, Britt. They did 90 games whenever they were doing some of these tests in terms of USL games and I think they even did some MLS games as well. But whenever they did it in 90 games, they only had 26 challenges. So it comes out to 0.36 challenges per game. So it's basically 1 every 3 games is what you actually get for a VAR challenge. All right. And then if you did have a VAR challenge, it only on average added to be a minute and 16 seconds to the games. So they're trying not to be overbearing on the game. They're trying not to constantly stop the game and constantly recheck things. And the fact that there's only 4 things that they can really look for, that kind of helps a little bit. So, I mean,
I think the shorter list is definitely beneficial. When I heard this come out, I was like, oh, great, it's going to add so much time. But I think as long as the center referee's communication with the man or woman up in the box doing this review, that I think as long as there's clear communication between them and I think it'll be beneficial.
So here's how the video assistant referee process goes. Step one, VAR checks a play in question, whether it's a goal, penalty kick, direct red card, or the mistaken identity. The 4 things, all right? Then step 2 is the VAR recommends review to the center referee in event of a clear and obvious error. Everybody should can we get a t-shirt that says clear and obvious error? I feel like that would be a very,
please.
that's an awesome one, right? And you should just point at
absolutely.
yourself. Clear and obvious error. People who aren't MLS wouldn't know. Referee overturns the call based on the VAR recommendation, or he reviews that monitor. He reviews it on a sideline monitor. Step 4 is the referee makes the final decision, and step 5, final decision is communicated in stadium and on the broadcast with the decisive angle. So they're going to show these reviews on the big screen in the stadium. How much fun is that?
Oh man. So it's kind of like it's not too far off from the NHL review.
Yeah, right, exactly. The difference here is that the NHL has sort of their central command where
they don't have to call Toronto. There's just someone in the box making these calls.
That's right.
Or reviewing.
And they're making suggestions to that particular referee. So anyway, that will be going on in this Sunday game where the LA Galaxy take on the Portland Timbers. It's something that you're going to want to watch. It's something you're going to want to pay attention to. If you see the little TV sign box that the referee makes, that means a video assistant referee review is ongoing. If you see them, what's the other? Oh, the other one is if they hold their ear. You know how like we all pretend like we're Secret Service and we hold our ear and we go, yes, got it. The eagle has landed. You know, one of those. If they do that and they hold their hand up like a stop sign, they have those things. That means that they're holding the play because a VAR is going on. So those are sort of the two ideas that we have, are this sort of the two. Let's see, how do I say it? The 2 hand signals that you're going to want to watch out for in this Portland game. By the way, the chat room says that I'm full of bad T-shirt ideas today. So
it's probably what, number 3, number 4 for this one?
It might be, I think 3. I think it's 3. So anyway, if somebody could just keep track of those, write those down, I'd appreciate it. Just send them off to me. I always forget them after I record. Anyway, so that's what you have for video assisted referee. So here's what I predict. Here's my prediction, and I'll tell you whether it all works out in the end. My prediction is that it's going to be very disruptive to start with, and it's something that I think we're not used to as soccer observers, and we're going to have to get used to it. It's an American idea. Certainly, all the American leagues, American sports leagues, use replay to some different effect in each one. I think the worst is maybe the NFL, where it seems like they're always challenging things and always taking a look at plays. So I don't think it's going to get that bad. But here's the thing: I do think there's going to be some creep in it. I think the 4 plays in question might eventually get moved into maybe 5, and I think that could possibly be an interesting thing. But here's the other thing that sort of comes out, that not only the plays themselves fall into the categories, but also the build-up, so known as the attacking phase. So, Britt, if the Galaxy get the ball and they start attacking, and they go down, and there's a ball play to Giovanni Dos Santos, and he's free, and he breaks through, and it looks like the goalkeeper tackles him in the box, and they're trying to see whether or not it was a correct penalty kick, and so they go in and they look at that play, and then while they're looking at that play, they go back to the pass that comes out, and they realize that Giovanni Dos Santos was offside. Well, then the offside gets called, and there is no penalty kick because.
So even if it's not on the list.
Yeah, but it is on the list because they're technically looking at a penalty kick and whether or not it was a penalty kick. But the attacking phase of that play started whenever the ball got played to Giovanni Dos Santos when he was offside. This is the argument that people have had against goal line technology, is that sometimes an offside goal will get scored because goal line technology says the ball went over the line, but whenever you go back and watch the replay, you notice that the guy's offside to even start that play. And so who cares if the ball, it's one of those like frustrating things. We have the technology to tell whether the ball went over the line, but we don't have the technology to tell you that guy was 3 yards offside whenever he got the ball. So that's what this does. So it does move backwards a little bit. And then the other thing, you know how in the NFL, whenever there's an instant replay, the teams try to go really fast. Like they're like, oh, these guys are probably going to challenge us, so let's hurry up, set down, and like go really fast and play. So that way they don't have a chance to do it. That's going to happen in Major League Soccer too, because as soon as the play is dead and over with, once the play restarts from that, you can't stop it anymore. So
another thing I thought of is every MLS call, not every call, but a lot of calls, you automatically have the team that the call was against surround the referee. It's like how long until the referee just makes these hand signals, even though that might not have happened, just to make the group go away and it's like, oh wait, I was right.
Yeah.
It's kind of his.
No, I mean, here's the thing that I will tell you, though, that has happened with some of the technology. It's like goal line technology, which I think MLS definitely needs to implement. It's one of the things, because you're going to see one of the things they're going to argue about is whether a video replay is going to be conclusive in a ball going over the line. And how many times have we watched those and been like, it looks like it is, but is it conclusive like the ball went over the line? Did it not go over the line? You're never going to know. And even with the best even with the best video replay, Britt, you're not going to see it. And so my question is, you need to get goal line technology in this. But what goal line technology did was it stopped people from arguing. Because if you saw, like, if the ball goes in, the watch goes off in the EPL, right? And the guy's just looking, he's like, hey, the watch went off. It's a goal. End of story. And everybody just sort of goes, oh, okay. And they turn around and they walk. And that's it. It's over with. There's no arguing. There's no other things. So I'm hoping that this VAR, which it won't, because then there's going to be interpretation of the video. And if they're showing these videos on the big screen, then the players are going to watch them as well. And they're going to argue with the referee and say, no, you don't understand. This is what happened. So anyway, it's going to be a bit of cluster. I think it's going to be a cluster for a while, probably for the rest of the season. I think next year it'll get a little bit better, but I mean, MLS referees need all the help they can get. So I'm generally in favor of what this is going to do. Of course, I reserve the right to completely change my mind and call it crap after the first weekend. So
I would like MLS fans to adopt the hand signals for goal or no goal that they use in the NHL. So it's kind of a thing where they're calling Toronto, and all of the home fans say they're hoping for it to be called a goal.
Right.
They use the hand signals where they're pointing to the middle that the referee would be doing, and I hope that's adopted in MLS as well. That would be lovely.
I just want to see fans stand up and start making the TV sign, like, come on, whenever you're angry and you want to see the video, you're like, we got to review that. Where's the review? Give me that thing. So somebody's got to have a sign. And somebody's got to have a sign and come up and like have a cardboard television, like, and like hold it up, review. Okay, anyway, that should be a T-shirt. All right, not good. The MLS. This is interesting. MLS signed a $700 million deal with Adidas. This is the jersey sponsorship. It was coming up in terms of, I think it had one more year. This was, I think it was through 2018, but I think they renewed it, and so now they have a 6-year deal. So a 6-year deal reportedly worth $700 million. The deal is likely backloaded. 4 more teams are still supposed to be joining the league. I think about eventually 28 is what it ends up being. I think that's what Don Garber was saying over.
That's what he was saying, and he says in my tenure, that's where we're going to cap.
That stops. So no more expansion fees to put in everybody's pocket. But this jersey deal is ridiculous in terms of money. Basically, it means it's $116 million per year. That's if you divide it straight along. Like I said, it's going to be loaded more towards when there's 28 teams. There's going to be more money in there, so it'll stage its way. But if you were going to divide that up amongst the 22 teams right now, it would be $5.27 million per team. Not all of that money goes to the teams, as we all know. It's Major League Soccer. It's all one conglomerate. But what this is doing, or even before I say what this could possibly do, let me go over. In 2004, they signed a 10-year deal with Adidas for $150 million, so $15 million per team. In 2010, they signed an 8-year deal, $200 million at $25 million per team, basically. And in 2017, it's the 6-year, $700 million. That is a ridiculous curve on this thing. So if you're looking at all that and $117 million, basically per year that's coming into the league, you would expect, Britt, that the teams might be seeing some more money, and there's rumors out there right now that possibly an additional $2 million in targeted allocation money could be available to each team, starting possibly in 2018, but more than likely for sure in 2019 if it doesn't happen in 2018. $2 million of targeted allocation money. Now, there was also this rumor going around that it could be earmarked for younger players, so they may even create another category of money, which is, of course, what we need in Major League Soccer is another category of money. But an additional $2 million. Right now, each team gets $1.2 million of targeted allocation money. If this goes straight into TAM like it's sort of being described, that would give them $3.2 million in TAM, and that would be very interesting because you're probably not going to increase the international spots, Britt. So either you're going to, and there's a ceiling on TAM signings, by the way. You can't make more than $1 million in order to get signed by TAM, and you have to be making over the minimum, which is 480. So you look at all these things, it probably means that you might get an additional 2 to 3 players on targeted allocation money, and I'm guessing that maybe only 1 or 2 of those is going to be an international player, so it looks like maybe some American players would finally get into the TAM game.
Right. I think that's kind of the biggest thing this has to offer, besides this curve from 2004 on. Just the growth in those years makes my MLS 1.0 heart very happy. But I think that just putting that money back into homegrown players, into youth players, maybe, I think it's so important for the growth of this league. And I know with all the expansion concerns, there's been talks of the player pool getting too thin, or
Right.
there not being money in MLS, so athletes leave, blah, blah, blah. But I think that more money into the teams to give the players is only going to be beneficial for the player pool
Yeah,
going forward.
Yeah, somebody said, why don't you just add $2 million to the cap? And I think expanding the cap is a good thing. Here's the thing about the cap, though. If you expand the cap, what really is going to happen with that is that the players who are there are going to get a raise. And I think some of them do deserve a raise. But
I agree.
But it's not necessarily going to increase the overall play of the league or the quality of the league, because the players that you're more than likely that money gets used up in terms of, the players you already have. It would be very unlikely people are going to get raises. It would be unlikely that you're bringing in better talent all of a sudden because of the cap space or other things. Although it could happen, you're just not going to get a whole bunch of it happening.
I could see the league minimum salary moving up because of this.
Yeah, so up from 65,000, maybe it goes up to 90,000. I mean, that's a big deal. Again,
that would be a big deal. I mean, it was in the last decade where it was at 16,000. So it was so low. So I think that that moving up to a livable wage for a professional athlete would be something very beneficial for this league.
Especially in Los Angeles, trying to get these guys to play on some of the league minimums is a little more difficult, but that's how it goes. So anyway, that's a huge deal. It's something that we'll keep an eye on in terms of how everything is going, and we'll eventually get there. Let's talk real quick about the MLS All-Star Game. If you saw my article on the MLS All-Star Game, you know how much sort of force I put behind this particular thing. So here is my real quick MLS All-Star Game recap for you. Giovanni Dos Santos and Jelle Van Damme, both LA Galaxy players, played in the All-Star Game. Jelle Van Damme started, went 45 minutes. He did not get injured. Giovanni Dos Santos played 28 minutes, and he basically was the last sub for the MLS All-Stars to sort of come in and play the last 28 minutes of the game. He played that 28 minutes and did not get injured. The most exciting thing that possibly happened was Giovanni Dos Santos hit his penalty kick off the crossbar, which is just sort of perfect because he's an LA Galaxy player, and rarely do LA Galaxy players actually make penalty kicks. So
I would like to begin the movement to end the crossbar challenge. I know that's a thing in MLS, but I've seen too many MLS players hit the crossbars on PKs for this thing to continue.
Yeah. That's what it's teaching bad habits is what it is. That's exactly what if you're constantly playing the crossbar game, no more crossbar challenge. It should be banned by the league. Everything else.
Hashtag ban crossbar challenge.
Let's see. Overall, the game was pretty boring. It ended 1-1. Real Madrid won 4-2 on penalty kicks because Major League Soccer players can't score penalty kicks. And that was about it. If you want to draw any far-reaching conclusions for this game, please feel free to make an idiot of yourself. I know there's plenty of people out there who said that the MLS All-Stars, that the best players in your league can't beat a team in preseason, then you don't deserve to call yourself anywhere near to the top of any pyramid. First of all, I don't think the MLS thinks that they're the best team or the best league in the world, and so that would be my first thing. And the second thing is that you had a team that was together for maybe 2.5 days. Attempt to do something, attempt to play a team that has been together for a long time in preseason. So there you go. That was it. Anything else you want to talk about the MLS All-Star Game?
I miss East versus West, and the penalties should have been old school MLS style penalties.
Well, points well taken on both of them. Let's see. Somebody said that if you were going to do East versus West now, you would need to have a player pool of 50 players. So you would have to have 50 players, basically 25 from each team, or from each conference, in order to do this, because we all know that, and the person who said this, I think it was Steve Davis. Steve said, you all know that nobody's going to want to play 90 minutes, so you have to play 45 minutes and 45 minutes. So you need 22 players per team, and then you probably need 3 more people on top of that. So are there 50 MLS All-Stars that you could put in a game, and could they fill up a stadium, like a really tiny stadium like LAFC is building with 22,000 people on it?
What about a 5-on-5 tournament? Just kind of make it silly. This thing's it doesn't have to be anything serious. It doesn't mean anything. I mean, going back to NHL, they picked captains and they did 3-on-3 and kind of did like a tournament style type thing. I think it'd be fun to be silly, and I mean, it's really a celebration of the league more than anything else. And now get to see the league play against these teams from Europe. But I think celebrating the league and how far it's come is really what this week should be about.
It is. Here's my one caveat to sort of not getting rid of it, and also to telling you that this was the most watched All-Star game ever in the history of All-Star games. 1.4 million people ended up watching this game. I believe that's correct. I got an email just before we went on the air that
Yeah, me too. I think it's somewhere around there.
Yeah, hold on. I got it. This is live and it's so much fun. Excuse me. 2.1. Yes, 2.1 million visitors. Most of those, by the way, came from Univision, who had 1.4 million. That's where I got the 1.4. And FS1 had 420,000, TSN up in Canada, and TVA Sports 97,000 and 96,000. So that's sort of the draw. But that's one reason, is that the record amount of people actually saw it. Granted, that was probably due to Real Madrid. You can understand why. The second part of this is that once MLS went away from the home team hosting MLS Cup, or excuse me, once they went to the home team hosting MLS Cup and not a predetermined MLS Cup, it was difficult to sort of have a sponsor event where the sponsors could come out and you could sort of take advantage of, the sponsors taking advantage of why they pay so much money. So this is like MLS's big party, and there are parties.
Right.
There are parties, and so it's a big showcase for the league, and so it's really the only chance you get, because with MLS Cup anymore, you have like a week or 10 days to set up MLS Cup, and it's just not enough time to do everything that you want to do in terms of your sponsorships. So if you're looking to continue to make money off of sponsorships, the MLS All-Star Game is probably one of those things that continues. I thought in this particular game it wasn't taken as seriously as it has been in the past, and I appreciated that from both sides of the players. So thank you very much. All right. We're already running long, I can tell. Jonathan Dos Santos, I'm telling you right now, Jonathan Dos Santos is not going to play on Sunday. Everybody was waiting for him. Everybody thought it would possibly happen, but he still hasn't trained with the team once, and he's possibly still out of the country as he's waiting for his P1 visa approval. I looked up P1 visas just for fun, because that's what I do, and P1 visas apply to individual or team athletes or members of an entertainment group, the P1B group, that are internationally recognized. A maximum of 25,000 P visas are issued annually. There's like P1, P2, P3, and P4, and they all have different designations. Anyway, that's your P1 visa update. But Jonathan Dos Santos has not got his visa paperwork as of this Thursday morning. If that changes, he'd still have to get here, and he'd have to be ready for training pretty much tomorrow, Friday, in order to be on the plane and travel up with the guys. I believe they're traveling on Saturday morning to be up there and then be ready for the game on Sunday. And we're going to get to that game in just a little bit, but that's sort of where it is. So it looks like Jonathan Dos Santos is going to make his debut, his MLS debut, against New York City FC on August 12th at StubHub Center. So, whatever. I don't know that it matters at all at this point. It's just a matter of him getting his paperwork, getting him in, and getting him on the field as soon as possible, because he's a designated player. You're paying a whole bunch of money, and you want to use him. All right, onward, upward, real quick. Again, Efrain Alvarez signs for LA Galaxy 2. This is the signing that everybody should be paying attention to. This kid has been playing with the LA Galaxy Academy. He's 15 years old. He becomes the youngest USL signing in history at 15 years, 1 month, and 14 days old. He bests the previous record of 15 years, 3 months, and 3 days set by the Vancouver Whitecaps FC2 whenever they signed Alphonso Davies back in February of 2016. He has been tearing it up for the LA Galaxy Academy team, but he's also in a current tug of war between the Mexican youth national team and the U.S. youth national team, and currently Mexico's winning that as he's down there training with the Mexican youth national team right now. Here's the big deal, and here's why this matters. One, I've been telling you he's been tearing it up with the Academy, but this is the LA Galaxy's top prospect right now, and at 15 years old, most of the top prospects for the LA Galaxy, Britt, have gone away from the Galaxy. Once they've been in the academy, they got lured away either to Mexico, if you're talking guys like Paul Arriola, or whenever you're looking at guys like Haji Wright, who eventually went over to the Bundesliga, I believe, and then ended up coming back to the New York Cosmos. So you're talking about the number one prospects have somehow always escaped the grasp of the LA Galaxy. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that with academy teams, there's no guarantee that even if the LA Galaxy put money into developing these kids, that they're ever going to get any money back. Teams can literally just buy them, and they go away, and the Galaxy get nothing for it. Well, this has sort of changed things a little bit. The fact that the LA Galaxy were able to land him on a USL contract in LA Galaxy 2 at 15 years old, now at least somewhat guarantees that they're not going to be completely left out to dry if he goes somewhere else. He's a professional player now. He's getting paid a professional wage. We have no idea how much that is. I have to imagine it was more than a little bit, though. I'm not talking, they paid him $15,000 and that's done. I mean, I'm thinking more in the $60,000 to $70,000 range in terms of those things, because there were other people who wanted him, and in order to get him, they may have had to do some magic. I have no idea if those numbers are correct, but I'm just thinking with all the things that have happened in previous ways, or in previous players that they didn't get him, that they really wanted to keep Efrain Alvarez. He's a midfielder. Again, he seems, if you watched him at all, Britt, I don't know if you've got a chance to see him in some of the academy games or anything like that, but he really is one of these prospects that looks like he has the pedigree to be able to play, eventually, if he continues the way that he's in Major League Soccer, and maybe sooner rather than later. So this is a big step for the LA Galaxy. They kept somebody, and keeping somebody right now is one of the most important things. Have you watched him at all, Britt?
No, I haven't had a chance to watch much of him, but I do agree that we do have the list of names that of players that have come through the system, and then it's almost time for them to stay, and then they end up going somewhere else for a better contract. So it's good that the Galaxy were able to pick this guy up.
Yeah, it is. It's somebody said that this is a bigger signing than Jonathan Dos Santos. I will say that in terms of potential, in terms of what the LA Galaxy could possibly get, it could be, but we're not going to know that for another couple of years. But here's the thing: he's 15. Somebody goes, "Oh, great! So he's not going to get an MLS game until he's 23." I don't see that at all with this kid. If he goes in and does what he's been able to do in the academy, by the way, usually playing up in his division, so being a U16 player and playing up with the U18s, that type of thing. If he can go into USL and continue to progress and continue to grow and everything sort of shows out, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him with some guest stints down the road with the LA Galaxy senior team maybe next year. So, I mean, it's that, and that would be a 16-year-old player playing for the senior team. I mean, it's happened. Jack McBean got signed whenever he was that age, but this is interesting. I don't think they're going to hold him back. If they think he's ready, he will play up with the senior team. That's what they're looking to do with this kid. So, we'll see. All that hype has to be obviously cooled down and sort of looked at, and you have to take a look at, see how he actually performs in USL. But with him at LA Galaxy 2 now, I think there's going to be a better chance for people to watch him and see what he's able to do. So a lot of hype surrounding this kid should be a lot of fun to do it. All right, there's all your LA Galaxy news. LA Galaxy schedule real quick before we get into this Portland game. Let's see. Obviously, the game coming up on Sunday, August 6th. Then the home game, Saturday, August 12th against New York City FC. We talked about that one. Wednesday, August 23rd is the next game after this. So LA Galaxy getting a bit of a break again. Which is interesting to see how all of this thing shakes out. The LA Galaxy look like they had to play every game all the time as it goes. And if you look in August, Britt, there's only 4 games for the LA Galaxy to play. But that's because there's there's 7 games in September to play. So a little bit of a calm before the storm. Wednesday, August 23rd, get away at Columbus, and then home August 27th versus the San Jose Earthquakes. The final matchup with the San Jose Earthquakes of the season. Away to Sporting Kansas City, away to the Houston Dynamo, home to Real Salt Lake, and then home to Colorado, away to Seattle, home to Toronto, and then away to Atlanta. That's on September 20th. So some interesting, difficult games coming up from the LA Galaxy. But if you're at the bottom of the table, like the LA Galaxy currently are, 9th in the Western Conference, almost everybody's better than you, Britt. So all of those teams are usually, almost all of them are better than them. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. It's fair. I mean, it's one thing to say that all these teams are better than them, but like looking at this list, I would say that almost any season. So it's kind of rough.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough schedule. An easy August or sort of a relaxed August, and then just, balls to the wall going in September, and then close everything out in October. Let's see. We're not going to talk about Supporter Shield because the LA Galaxy don't even know what that is at this point. They've forgotten completely. The injuries right now, we had Sebastian Lletget still out. Baggio Husidic is still out, although he is back to training. Baggio Husidic might come back. Sebastian Lletget, Britt wrote in here that it's 4 months is July 27th. So I think the timeline was 4 to 6 months on him. It looked like possibly, I still think we're shooting more towards the end of August than we are, the end of July here.
I'm not sure if that number was including that other surgery that he had as well, because he did have that second surgery a while into his recovery. So I'm not sure if that was included in the timeline either.
I think it was. From everything I've told, that surgery was standard procedure and that it wasn't doing anything that was damaged or anything like that. They said it was part of the procedure to go in there. He may have had hardware in there and they took the hardware back out type thing.
Right.
So everything seems like it's still on course and that nothing has changed. Timelines haven't changed. I got told that. So Dave Romney is sort of the one right now that everybody's sort of up in the air about whether or not he'll be able to play, because he is the guy who you'd expect to fill in for Jelle Van Damme, because it can't be Bradley Diallo because he's also suspended for the game. So both of those guys, Jelle Van Damme and Bradley Diallo, suspended for the Portland game. Then Van Damme suspended for New York City as well. All right. Let's see. Are you ready to go ahead and do this game preview then, Britt? Can I get in? Can I get my game preview on?
Do it.
All right. So, here we go. Your LA Galaxy get ready to face off against the Portland Timbers on Providence Park Sunday, August 6, 2017, an 11 a.m. kickoff time that was moved from a 1 p.m. kickoff time because of excessive heat. The game can be found on ESPN or ESPN2 because they change it all the time, anytime I mention that. LA and Portland meet for the second time this year. The Galaxy were beaten 1-0 by Portland at StubHub Center on March 12th of this year. That's a game, of course, everyone remembers as the diving game. Jelle Van Damme with 2 yellow cards in that game, both of which he didn't deserve for a red card. All time, the Galaxy are 7-5-5 versus Portland, 17 games total, and 3 of the last 4 games have been won by the road team. Portland sit in 4th place in the Western Conference with an 8-8-7 record for 31 points on 23 games. The LA Galaxy sit in 9th place in the Western Conference with a 6-10-5 record for 23 points on 21 games played. Galaxy are winless in their last 6 games, but did stop a 5-game losing streak with a draw against Seattle last week, and Portland has only 1 win in their last 6 games, but carries 4 draws and a loss during that streak. Galaxy score on average 2.1 goals per game and concede 1.8 goals per game on the road. It's 0.9 and 2.1 at home. The Galaxy have the best road record in Major League Soccer, 16 points from 10 games played. They're tied with Toronto FC, who has the same number of points but 11 games played. But Portland is 5-2-4 at home this season, the 2 losses coming to Real Salt Lake and the Seattle Sounders. Those happened recently in June and July. Can the LA Galaxy travel up to the very hot 98 degrees Portland Timbers at Providence Park and get a victory on the road? Can Siggy sort of pull some of that Pacific Northwest mojo out and stomp Portland back down? We have a bunch to talk about this game, so let's get into that right now, Britt. Whenever you look at these two teams, what do you see from this game and what are you expecting from this game?
So I think the weather's definitely going to play a big role in this one. If they had to move the game time up, and then you're going to add the water breaks to that, I think that unfortunately, I mean, earlier in the season the game was only 1-0, and it was kind of, I would say that I would expect the same type of aggression, and I am pretty certain these teams don't like each other, but at the same time I don't expect it to be a goal fest.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing here is that, with Siggy Schmidt in there, and obviously, I'm sure Portland loves him. I'm sure they're really excited about him being back in the league as well.
They're best friends.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, of course, all that Pacific Northwest love. I was looking at it. So Portland won an MLS Cup, and Seattle's won an MLS Cup. So does that mean Vancouver wins one now, just to give the whole Pacific Northwest sort of an MLS Cup? But anyway,
no,
of course not. You look at what this team brings, and Fernando Adi and Diego Valeri and Darlington Nagbe, and they have some players who are going to be a thorn in the side. Diego Valeri is one of the best players in the league. He's going to be playing in the midfield. The LA Galaxy don't have an answer for him. I don't care if it's Jermaine Jones in there. I don't care. If it was Jonathan Dos Santos, maybe we have a game on our hands. But he's not going to be playing. It's completely unlikely. I don't want to say not for sure, but for sure he's not playing. Diego Valeri is going to be able to boss this LA Galaxy midfield around. I mean, ultimately, you're looking at Jermaine Jones in there. You're looking at Joao Pedro, and for my money, it's Diego Valeri all day long, and that's not even hard. I mean, people are saying, well, duh, of course. Darlington.
He did have extra midweek travel.
Yeah, he did.
So there's that.
Because he went to the All-Star game, right? And I think he played 45 minutes, so you had some of that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he's really, really tired, Britt. Really tired, and he
exactly.
And he doesn't want to play, and he doesn't even get out of bed in the morning. I think that's the best thing that could happen for the LA Galaxy. You're playing in Portland again on the plastic turf, so it's supposed to be 98 degrees in Portland that day. Which is it was 105 degrees in Portland today, by the way. Just wanted to sort of point out. Yeah, it's ridiculous. By the way, the air quality is really horrible as well. Some people who live up in Portland who are LA Galaxy fans were saying that it's disgusting because apparently there's all these fires. So I don't know if that's Portland or Seattle or where it all is, but the Pacific Northwest is covered in some bad smoke. So hopefully that's not down in Portland. It might have been Seattle that the fan was at. But it's gross. And you're on the plastic pitch. It's going to be like 120 degrees on that pitch. You're looking at, possibly you're going to have hydration breaks. There's no doubt about it. I think we looked up the wet bulb temperature. Do you remember what the wet bulb temperature has to be in order? Isn't it like 82 something?
82.
Yeah, 82 degrees. It's supposed to be 98. And granted, those aren't direct comparisons with wet bulb and everything else, but wet bulb takes into account like cloud cover and humidity and other things. But this is a bad situation, and it's for a team. Let's face it. If you're going to play an LA Galaxy team that you expect, it's a little bit older with Jermaine Jones in there. It's Giovanni Dos Santos who had some midweek travel. You're looking at Jossie Zardes, who has yet to prove that he's 100% to me or anybody else. This is going to be just a brutal game, and you're doing it without Jelle Van Damme, who you'd like to have in this particular case because Fernando Audi is going to be able to boss anybody around that he wants, Dave Romney or Daniel Steres. It's a very, very tough matchup. With Jelle Van Damme in there, I actually felt a little bit better. And plus, that would have been like this revenge game for him, which he probably would have got a red carded in after the diving and the fun video LA Galaxy put in there. But,
right.
I don't have a positive feeling in this game at all, Britt.
No, me either. The only thing the only straws I can grasp onto are the chemistry changes with the coaching change. I know that the chemistry in the locker room, the vibe in there wasn't that great. So hopefully they can pull something out, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody is. Listen, a great result for the LA Galaxy on the road in the heat at Portland would be a 0-0 draw. The thing that my straws that I grasp onto on this one, Britt, is that the last 3 of 4 games, the away team has won, and the other game was a draw. So you look at the last 4 games, and the road team comes out victorious. So the LA Galaxy have played well on the road before. It's grasping at straws because you really need to see something here from the LA Galaxy and what they can do and how it all goes. All right. So, do you want to give a prediction that's sure to be wrong, so that way we can end this the charade of us knowing what this game is going to be?
I'm gonna go with 3-2 Portland.
3-2, but that's a lot of goals.
It is. That's why I know it's not gonna happen.
All right, 3-2 Portland. So let's see. I think it's gonna be 2-1. LA Galaxy, because it makes no sense whatsoever. How did the Galaxy win that game 2-1? Who scores the goals? Daniel Steres is going to have to score both of them.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
So, okay, you know what? Daniel Steres doesn't have to score both. He can score one, and Roman Alessandrini can score one. That's an easy enough thing. No, Daniel Steres scores both goals. Okay, 2-1 LA Galaxy. Daniel Steres does both goals, and again, I'm telling you right now, those predictions are guaranteed to be wrong. All right, Britt, you made it.
However,
yes.
I did say that we saw the scores from the other MLS games before the Seattle game, and I was like, it's going to be 0-0 for the Seattle game. And
you
were
was.
Right.
Yeah, you were right. I will verify that it was 0-0. although that's more of a jinx than you being right. That's not nice. Don't ever do that again because 0-0 games are boring, and that game was fairly boring. It was a step in the right direction, but boring. LA Galaxy will face off against the Portland Timbers Sunday, August 6th. Again, 11 a.m. kickoff time, not 1 p.m. You have to change it on your schedule. 11 a.m. kickoff time, ESPN, or possibly ESPN2. They say it's ESPN, so start there. Move to the dose if you need to. But 11 a.m. kickoff time, which means soccer brunch and mimosas for everybody. So hopefully everybody can get that done. All right, Britt. You sort of made it through your very first really, really official show. The last time it was official, but this time it's really official. So, do you think you survived okay?
I think I did all right. And Augie stayed quiet the whole time. Pretty proud of him.
Yeah, that's never happening again, guaranteed. All right, Britt, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we'll get out of here.
You can find me on Twitter at _BrittJo, BRITTJO, and for Total MLS and Corner of the Galaxy.
All right, and if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. That's where you can find me as well. I'm there on that Twitter account almost all the time. Head on over to Corner of the Galaxy for all of our written articles, all of our podcasts, all of the links to the shows, all that fun stuff is there. I have a special treat possibly coming up for you next week on next Thursday. We do have 500. Our 500th show is in countdown mode. We don't actually know what that number is, but it is in countdown mode. So we're going to do that. We're going to sort of keep you guys posted. We want to do something fun, big, and make sure that everybody gets to sort of chip in on the 500th show. But next Thursday, tentatively scheduled, Mr. Jared Dubois will be on our live show Thursday nights. So a little return of Jared would be nice. I want to thank Britt for doing her first show and sort of kicking butt on that. And we're going to have her and Wendy and Jared. And you might even hear Corey come back as well. So lots of guys ready to rotate around as we go. For Miss Britt Pergl, I'm Josh Guesman, wishing everybody a very good weekend. Hope you enjoy the game. Hope the LA Galaxy get a win for you so that way you can enjoy your weekend just a little bit more. That does it for us here on Corner of the Galaxy. Everyone have a great night. We will catch you next time.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. And for all of your independent LA Galaxy news, discussion, and entertainment, including this podcast, head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Fans, thanks for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.